What do you do when you can't fall asleep at night? How do you make yourself fall asleep faster? This problem seems to be happening in the worst possible moment. From my experience, at least looking at any time when I couldn't fall asleep, it's usually when I need to sleep the most. It's kind of that Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, that's the first thing that's going to go wrong. I'm not going to be able to fall asleep. Typically, this is before a live event. If I have to speak the next day, I'm probably not going to be able to sleep that night, despite the fact that I'm doing kind of the basics right, the common advice out there, shut down electronics 30 minutes before bed at least, make sure that the room has no distractions, you're using earplugs, the temperature is fine. I get all these things handled, that's a part of my life in general, I have pretty good sleep hygiene, and I'm sure you do as well. If you watched the videos, I'm going to link them in the description below if you're looking for these types of tips. But still, I lie down in bed, it's kind of embarrassing, right? I'm like lying there in bed, and I'm in bed on time. Normally, I'm supposed to be asleep already. My mind just can't shut up. I keep getting these thoughts, I keep creating these mental models, what could go right, what could go wrong, especially what could go wrong. And the more I try to fight this, the worse it gets. My mind just keeps fighting back, and I'm getting like this adrenaline rush in the middle of the night in the bed. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening again. And because I'm kind of reinforcing it, it gets even worse. So after like an hour in bed, like trying to fall asleep, I get up out of bed and I check my phone and I realize I just wasted an hour and it just passed by like that. And I'm not sure what to do now. And this happens to me pretty much all the time. Every time I have a big event coming up, or even when I have a flight, this is a very specific issue. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had any problems with that. When you have a flight, you can't fall asleep at all that night, like when you have a flight the next day. This seems to be happening to me all the time. I wish there was a solution. I actually try to Google this and see if there's anybody else having these issues. But every single time, I think I conditioned myself that I can't fall asleep if there's a flight next day. Even if it's like a 30-minute little flight and I still can't fall asleep. I don't know, it's just crazy. I don't know, am I crazy? Like, what's happening here? So, how did I deal with this insomnia? Well, there's a couple of tips that I want to share with you guys that are been really helpful for me, and I think that could be valuable for you as well to try it out and see if it works. So the number one thing is that now I get out of bed sooner, right? So if I can't fall asleep within the first 25 minutes, I make sure to get out of bed. Like if I see that it is gonna be one of those situations, I just get out of bed. I don't let myself spend too much time in bed now trying to like roll over around, like trying to find the colder side of the pillow or do some weird thing like that, or like lie in bed, lie on my face and like try to, no, it doesn't work, right? I just get out of bed. If it doesn't work after 20 minutes, I just get out of there. Then what I do, I just first make sure that I'm not using my phone, right? That's the first thing. Don't use your phone or your laptop or anything like that. And just turn on the dimmest light that you have in your house. I usually turn on a light somewhere in another room that is kind of farther away. So this room that I'm currently in, that it doesn't have a lot of light in it. And I'm gonna take out a piece of paper. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start writing down every single thought that comes into my mind. So every single thought, whatever it is, I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna use that piece of paper. Sometimes I fill up the whole piece of paper and I have to write over the stuff that I already written, and it's completely fine. And that is the only purpose of this paper is just to get those thoughts out, to download those thoughts out. Whatever it's complete rubbish sometimes. I'm looking at that piece of paper the next day and I cannot believe it. But having said that, in some cases, you get an amazing idea in this whole brainstorm, in this brain dump that is happening in the night. You get a crazy idea that the next day you're looking at, oh my God, this is awesome. Let's do this and let's implement this. So you never really know. It's a really good idea to have like a notepad or something ready nearby where you can write down, and it's very convenient to start doing that. Now, the second thing that really helps me, and something that I feel like is an amazing tool, is I just walk around the house. I mean, it looks a little bit weird. After I write down these thoughts, I go and just walk around in circles around the house until I get bored, until I get sleepy. And I know this is a little bit embarrassing. Just saying this to you guys, because it's not a very conventional piece of advice that you would read on like WikiHow or something. It's something that worked for me. So I'm just gonna walk around the table, like some table or like a dining table in my house. And I'm gonna walk around that sometimes for like 30 minutes. and until I get bored, and then I'm gonna fall asleep. Because if I don't do this, I'm gonna be spinning in bed for like 5 hours, and I'm just gonna pass out at the end of the night, and I'm not gonna be able to get any sleep. So walking around the table has been really helpful, and I'm probably the weirdo in my neighborhood. In every city, every country I've been to, if someone can actually see that through the window, they're gonna be thinking, okay, this guy is nuts. This guy is going crazy. So that's something I do, and that's the second tip. If you wanna try this stuff out, I mean, if you have family living with you or someone, you tell them beforehand so they don't think that you're weird, or they don't think that you're like moonwalking or something. So that's the second tip. The third tip that was really helpful for me is that when I know that there is going to be a big event the next day, or when I know that there's going to be a flight, I might actually shut down electronics and go more into a kind of a relaxation mode 2-3 hours before bedtime. So if I know that I have a flight on Thursday, on a Wednesday night, I know that I'm probably gonna have issues falling asleep. So what I'm gonna do is, let's say my falling asleep time, the time when I'm in bed, and typically is, let's say, 11 p.m. I'm gonna make sure that past 8 p.m. on that day, I'm gonna do the best I can to avoid electronics as much as possible. Of course, I have Flux installed, I have the blue light blocked. I'm gonna try to take a walk that day before bed, about an hour and a half. I'm gonna try to do some kind of unwinding so I can at least lower down my anxiety response. I'm gonna try to talk to someone like that is my friend, or just over the phone or something like that, to download a little bit of thoughts before I go to bed. This has been very, very helpful. I would say that this developing the ritual beforehand is actually even more helpful, just by thinking ahead of what could go wrong. I think this was one of the most helpful things that I basically done for dealing with the fact that I can't fall asleep. So this is a really, really cool thing. So I definitely try this one out. The last one that I want to share with you guys, and this is something that is a little bit inconvenient, and that is when you're in bed, you want to make sure, if you're not used to meditation and mindfulness and things like that, so you go to bed like after you do the walking around the table, and if you still find yourself like that your heart is racing a little bit, then you lie down in bed, in the middle of the bed. If you have your side, I don't know how big your bed is, you lie down in the middle, and now you kind of do this mindfulness exercise. This is something that not a lot of people are very comfortable with, at least some people that are not used to meditating. And you focus on relaxing each part of your body. So you think about your heart, first your chest area, and you just kind of feel it with your mind, and you try to focus on breathing and how that area is getting relaxed. The more you breathe slower, like deep breaths in and deep breaths out, and then this area becomes relaxed. Then you go down on one side and you relax everything until the toe, and then you switch to the other toe and you go up, and by the time you reach like your head, by the time you reach your arms, you typically fall asleep. This is a very useful exercise in general, I would say, for increasing mindfulness and just for being able to relax. And I think that it can be applied for many, many different scenarios when you're dealing with stress, with anxiety. I know a lot of public speakers actually like to do this. I mean, some public speakers, having said that, I mean, some guys like Anthony Robbins, they're gonna jump into a cold shower or a cold pool and then hop on stage, and they're gonna be like pumped up and full of energy and state. But some other ones, they like to do some form of relaxation, mindfulness like this, and try to run through visualizing the speech, how it's gonna look, or just do some kind of relaxation exercise that I just said here. I mean, these are all tools. Of course, all of these tips that I shared with you here is something that you wanna try out. They're a little bit unconventional. You know, this is not something that I've found on just WikiHow or whatever. I kind of fall into this by researching, and throughout the years I had a lot of issues. And still, I mean, every time I make sure that if I have something big coming up, that the night before I remember that I have these tools at my disposal, and I remember that to be ready for the night and to be able to fall asleep. Because let's face it, I mean, if we're not if you don't get enough sleep, you're having a huge issue the next day. You're gonna be less focused. Most of your efforts in terms of like that day probably will not feel very good. You're gonna be distracted. You're gonna be craving food a lot more, especially junky food. And it's not a good position to be in. If you're planning to go to the gym that day, you can forget about it, right? You're gonna be sleep deprived, you can barely get your ass to the gym in general, and you're gonna be passing out under a squat rack. That actually happened once. I was like, oh, I started getting dizzy with like 225 on squats, for a couple of reps, and which is not even the warm-up weight. And this is what happens, right? When you don't listen to your body, when you don't give your body the rest necessary, shit happens, So you want to make sure to take care of yourself, apply these tips. I know it's a little bit of a longer video, but I wanted to share with you guys a little bit of my experience, some of my unconventional methods, some of the stories that are a little bit embarrassing, but I think it might be valuable for you guys. So let me know in the comments below which one of these do you think will be helpful for you, and have you ever dealt with this problem of not being able to fall asleep at night? So thanks for watching, and make sure to leave the comment in the comments below, and aside from that, hit that subscribe button on the sports channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.